If a group punishes your questions, it doesn't deserve your answers. A cult isn't about weird beliefs. It's about three levers of control: coercive control, enforced conformity, and engineered dependency. Today, we're going to name them, dismantle them, and choose freedom on purpose. I've said it for a long time. I'm not against religion, I'm against superstition. And as my work has grown, it's become clear I'm also anti cult. So, what exactly is a cult? Not just a fringe church, a political faction, or a strange club. A cult is any system of power and belonging that preserves authority by controlling people. It's less about what they believe and more about how they control. Here's the playbook you'll see in every setting: religion, politics, business, even relationships. Authority that can't be questioned, truth that can't be challenged, belonging that depends on obedience, fear, guilt, and shame to keep people in line, and even an exploitation of your time, money, and devotion to benefit the few at the top. Healthy communities do the opposite. They give you room to think, choose, and grow. Cults demand you conform, obey, and surrender. In this conversation, I'm going to give you a clean lens, the anti cult lens, built on three diagnostic criteria: coercive control, enforced conformity, and dependency. We'll define them, spot their markers, and then I'll show you how to safeguard your mind, your autonomy, and your relationships so you can belong without being owned. Because escaping a cult is only half the mission. Building communities worth belonging to is the other half. So let's start with the definition of a cult. A cult is any system of power and belonging that uses coercive control, enforced conformity, and dependency to preserve authority at the expense of individual autonomy. Cultic structures can appear in religion, politics, business, culture, and relationships, and are marked not by what they believe, but by how they control. Cults use the same playbook no matter the setting: authority that cannot be questioned, truth that cannot be challenged, belonging that depends on obedience, fear, guilt, or shame to keep people in line, and of course, that exploitation of time, money, or devotion that only benefits a few at the top. The difference between a cult and a healthy community is simple. Healthy communities give you room to think, choose, and grow. Cults demand you conform, obey, and surrender. So when I say I'm anti cult, I mean I'm against any structure, religious, political, corporate, or cultural, that uses coercive control to strip people of their freedom, autonomy, or dignity. Because we don't just need to escape cults, we need to build communities worth belonging to. So let's talk about the core elements of cult dynamics. We'll start with authoritarian leadership. This is a central figure or ideology that claims unquestionable authority. Loyalty to the leader or ideology outweighs loyalty to the truth or personal well being. There's also absolute truth claims. The group asserts exclusive access to truth, salvation, safety, or success. Doubt or dissent is reframed as betrayal, weakness, or sin. And there's also the BITE model: behavioral, informational, thought, and emotional control. Behavior is strict rules about dress, relationships, time, or finances. Information is typically censorship, propaganda, or discouragement of outside sources. The thought control comes from the loaded language, the black and white thinking, and thought stopping cliches. And if you pay attention, that happens even outside of religion. And then there's also emotion: guilt, fear, shame, or love bombing to maintain compliance. And we can't overstate the isolation and dependency markers, where you're encouraged to separate from family, community, or alternative viewpoints. The group becomes the sole source of identity, support, and meaning. Once this happens, it makes it easier to exploit the members' labor, money, time, or devotion. Now it can be extracted for the group's benefit, and the cost always outweighs benefits for the individual. Now let's talk through the distinction from healthy community. Not every passionate community is a cult. The difference is healthy communities respect autonomy, encourage critical thought, allow dissent, and benefit their members. Cults demand conformity, suppress independent thought, punish dissent, and primarily benefit the leaders. The community we're building for sure is a movement, but we're also evolving into something much more: a category. And that category is anti cult. It's the study, exposure, and dismantling of coercive systems of control that function like cults, whether in religion, business, politics, or culture, and the construction of healthier people centered alternatives. If anti cult is the category, then coercive control, enforced conformity, and dependency are its diagnostic criteria. Defining these terms with clarity will give us a strong intellectual foundation and a consistent language we can use across conversations. So let's start with coercive control. Coercive control is the use of psychological, emotional, social, or financial pressure to dominate another person's choices, often without physical force. It operates by limiting freedom and instilling fear, guilt, or shame to keep people compliant. Cultic markers here are often easy to identify. Fear based teachings about hell, punishment, or even the apocalypse, guilt and shame as tools of regulation, love bombing to manipulate belonging, and withholding approval, community, or resources if members resist. It creates a system where people believe they're choosing freely, but in reality, their choices are shaped by constant invisible threats. Now let's talk about enforced conformity. Enforced conformity is the demand that all members adopt the same beliefs, behaviors, language, and identity markers with penalties for divergence. The markers you will see here are uniformity in dress, speech, and rituals, often group jargon or loaded language that discourages critical thought, us versus them mentality, discouraging diversity or dissent, and then punishments ranging from social shunning to public discipline. Enforced conformity erases individuality. It conditions members to suppress questions, doubts, and unique expressions of self in order to remain accepted. Now let's talk about dependency. Dependency is the intentional creation of reliance on the group or its leaders for identity, meaning, relationships, finances, or even survival. The markers here are often clear. Members are encouraged to cut off ties with outsiders, whether that's families, friends, or critics, making the group the only trusted source of truth or belonging. There is financial exploitation, mandatory tithes, seed offerings, or even MLM buy ins. This encourages members to sacrifice career, family, or education for the group. Dependency locks people in. When all other safety nets are removed, leaving the group feels like losing one's whole life. Now let's look at this triad in action. For coercive control, you can't think freely. Enforced conformity, you can't act freely. Dependency, you can't live freely. Together, they form the engine of cult dynamics. Strip away one of them, and the cult's grip begins to weaken. By defining cults through these three criteria, we're not just critiquing religion, we're offering a universal framework that applies to churches and megachurches, authoritarian politics, toxic corporations and MLMs, manipulative self help and coaching movements, and abusive relationships. Knowing what a cult is and how they operate is only half the battle. You also have to take the steps to safeguard yourself from cults and cultish ideology. Number one, we have to build critical thinking muscles. Ask better questions. Don't just ask what do they believe, ask how do they treat dissent and who benefits from my compliance. Spot absolutes. Watch for claims of exclusive truth, special revelation, or a single path and learn the playbook. Familiarize yourself with cult tactics, fear, love bombing, loaded language. The more you know, the less vulnerable you are. Maintain multiple sources of truth. Diversify information. Read outside the group's literature. Check independent sources and even seek out critics. Healthy groups tolerate criticism. Cults fear it. Beware of information control. If someone says, oh, don't listen to them, don't read that, only listen to us, only read our stuff, treat that as an immediate red flag, not Six Flags. Protect your autonomy. Hold on to your decisions. Big choices, money, relationships, career, should never hinge on a single leader's approval. We have to build the tools to resist behavioral micromanagement. If a group dictates what you wear, who you date, or how you spend your time, be cautious. A good habit to develop is to practice saying no. Even small acts of resistance build the confidence to walk away if needed. And then stay connected outside of the group. Preserve external relationships. Keep friendships, family ties, and communities outside the circle. Isolation is a cult's greatest weapon. So, for a quick cross check here, belonging. Ask yourself, if I left this group, would I still have a life? If the answer feels like no, you may be sliding into dependency, which brings us into a great point. You could be a part of a healthy community, but still develop cult like attachments. That's why our number one weapon against cults isn't just calling out cult leaders, it's highlighting the insecurities in ourselves that make us cult followers. If we strengthen individuals, we decrease the need for extreme dependency. And it's always a good idea to watch for emotional manipulation. Name the emotion. Are you being motivated by guilt, fear, shame, or flattery rather than reason and choice? It's okay to feel good, but I still need a good reason. Check the ratio. Does this group empower you with joy and growth or exhaust you with fear and demands? Remember, true care empowers, manipulation drains. Look for the exploitation. Follow the money. Is your financial contribution transparent and voluntary or coerced and hidden? Do resources circulate back to the community or always up to the leaders? And then ask who profits and how. If the answer is always the top, you may be in a cultic economy. Trust your instincts. Listen to discomfort. If something feels off, don't dismiss it as a lack of faith, loyalty, or discipline. Explore the discomfort and find the source. Even if the discomfort was unsubstantiated, you would have done the necessary work to get to that conclusion. And when in doubt, take a break. Time away brings clarity. A healthy group won't punish you for needing space. Remember, freedom feels like expansion, not restriction. To safeguard yourself from cults, think critically, stay connected, protect your autonomy, and watch for manipulation and exploitation. Trust your instincts. Healthy communities will celebrate these safeguards. Cults will attack them. If you remember nothing else, remember the triad. Coercive control says you can't think freely. Enforced conformity says you can't act freely. Dependency says you can't live freely. Break any one of those, and the cult's grip begins to weaken. Break all three, and people get their lives back. So ask better questions, keep multiple sources of truth, protect your autonomy, stay connected outside the group, watch for manipulation and exploitation, and trust that inner alarm. Freedom feels like expansion, not restriction. I'm anti cult because I'm pro human. We don't just leave harmful systems, we need to build healthier ones. If this helped, share it with someone who needs language for what they're feeling and tap in with us as we practice a different way of belonging. Communities that honor curiosity, consent, and conscience. Let's build places worth staying. Thank you so much for hanging with me to the end. Listen, next month is going to be absolutely wild. Y'all, the rise is real. Meet me in Mississippi at Mississippi State University on October the 16th. I'm going to be sharing my story, Black Nonbeliever Next Door, and I'm telling you, it's going to be an incredible time. Then from October 24th through the 26th, I'll be in LA and San Diego for a weekend of community building and personal empowerment. And let me be clear, this isn't just for Southern California. If you've tapped in from anywhere across the country or even thought about starting something in your city, this is the weekend to show up. You'll get to see the mission in action, learn the strategies we're using, and connect with people who are already building communities worth belonging to. This is where you catch the fire, gather the tools, and then take them home to get started. The movement is happening. We are launching something that can absolutely change the world, and we cannot do it without you. So here's what I need you to do. Number one, show up in person if you can. The registration link is in the description. If you've tapped in, listen, if you've tapped in to be a host or a lead, I am challenging you to register and to spend the whole weekend with us. This is where we turn it up. Number two, join the mission as a supporter. Patreon, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, or Window Shop are all options. And if you're ready to go all in, if you're really about that life, become a weekly or monthly partner of Bridge City Global using the link in the description as well. Don't just watch history. Help us make it. This is your moment to step in. Again, thank you for hanging with me today. And until next time, keep rising.